What's up, y'all? No, it's been a few days since the last video, but I kind of had this mindset that I would just be able to, post one every single day at the same time of the day. I don't know what I was thinking with that one. That was wrong, not right. But I'm gonna try and keep this one short because I can get to rambling, and I don't want to do that. The thing that God put on me today was patience. Learning to exercise it, learning to acknowledge when you're lacking it, and growing in a desire for more of it. The most patient person that I ever met in my life was my grandfather. For the entire time that I knew the man, I never once saw him sweat anything, and he was a pastor, and a genuine one at that. And as a kid, I didn't necessarily notice. I wish I would have, but my granddad's relationship with God was so rock solid that the man couldn't be shook. Even when he was in stage 4 of cancer and slowly wilting away the last 2 years of his life, even then, the man was not shook. I never once saw him sweat. And now that I'm grown and I look back at that and I have my own desire for that, I sometimes regret that I did not take the opportunity to talk to him about his faith, because he had all the answers. If you knew the man, then you would know he had all the answers that I would have needed. But then in that thought process came the realization that I have just about every memory of my grandfather that I've ever had. I'm sure there's some in there that I don't remember, but when I think about him and different moments where I should have seen him sweat, and the fact that he didn't, as a grown man with kids myself, I'm able to look at that situation and know how I would have flipped if it had been me. And the only thing that comes to mind is he was able to handle it the way he was because of his patience. And the patience he had was a gift that made it so that he lived his life in peace. Prayer is supposed to be what does that for us. When you go to God, you shouldn't be going to him with the expectation of an answer or a solution just be handed right there. It may very well happen. I'm not saying it can't, but it's not the best idea to just go in there expecting it. What you need to go in there expecting, hoping for, and looking for is God's peace being placed on you. Because if you have God's peace placed on you, this problem that you're going to God with, it could be a days-long problem, a months-long problem, a years-long problem. And if you have God's peace, then it's not going to matter how long the problem persists, because you're going to know that whatever is going to happen is going to be God working it out for you and your good and for his glory. And so this morning I had a situation where I had just a little thought that snuck into my head for a millisecond, and I couldn't turn it off once it got there. And it was sitting there eating at me, and my thought process got really dark really fast. And I reached out to somebody that I cared about and told them what was going on, and they basically hit me with, let go and let God. And, you know, it's so ironic that that's what they said, because that's exactly the place that I'm in right now, and learning to exercise that and learning to let that be what I lead with, and not with my own personal fears or my own personal wants, because I do have certain hopes and wants for all different variables of my life, but above those hopes and wants, I know that whatever it is that God wants is going to be way better than what I want, and my ability to trust in Him is pivotal in that. And so that's what I wanted to come and do a quick video on, is letting people that are just now establishing a life with God realize that you're going to have all kinds of twists, turns, and curves the minute you decide to get off the bench. You know, you're going to have friends and family that they're going to have issues with it, you know, not necessarily like bad issues, but not know how to approach it or how to handle it. You know, you're going to have family members that completely rebel against it and don't want nothing to do with it. You know, there's going to be all these different things that are going to throw you curveballs. And if you don't get that part down, if you don't get the let go and let God down, then you're setting yourself up to have the rug pulled out from under you. And so I would strongly suggest to people that are just getting restarted in their faith to realize that there's probably going to be things happen that you don't like and that you're not comfortable with, and that's okay. Because what you can be comfortable in is that peace that God gave you when you came to the reality that you wanted Him to lead your life. And when you realize that, reach out, grab a hold of that peace whenever you need, then it doesn't matter how bad things get, it doesn't matter what the possibilities are, because you know it's going to be all right.